welcome back to my channel, welcome back to Lisa Hart Fitness. Today's video is not a workout, and on Friday I'm not going to be releasing a workout either. The videos this week are something I'm really passionate about, but I don't post nearly enough content on it, and that is the running aspect of fitness. Now, for those of you that have followed this channel before will already know that I've completed the marathon back in January, which was the Disney marathon. This video is completely dedicated in ways to reduce your marathon time and increase your marathon speed. So as I said before, back in January I did 4 hours 32 for my marathon. So I'm not going to go over what happened during my marathon back in January. If you would like to find out more on what I did in my Disney marathon, I'll place a link in the section above right now, so you can just click on that and then go to that video. It wasn't the fastest marathon I've ever completed, and I didn't feel great the following days after, but I still caught the bug that made me want to go and do another marathon. I did complete a marathon back in May, and this was one of the New England Challenge races, and I completed the Hartford Marathon in 3 hours and 55 minutes. Now that's a huge jump to go from 4:32 to 3:55. Now, part of the reason I will say this before I go into the few of the tips in order to get your faster marathon, and that is my physical fitness prior to having children and prior to all the craziness that's happened in the last few years. Being able to do a sub 3:30 marathon in the first place, you kind of have a little bit of muscle memory going into it and a level of physical fitness that you can recuperate, that you can get back after a certain period of time. So I've not gone from complete novice in that respect. So I was able to actually jump from 4:32 to 3:55 by doing a few of the things that I'm going to explain to you right now. And they are things that can actually help you, whatever level you're at, to actually reduce your time. So this is the plaque that I got to show that I actually got second place in the marathon. This obviously shows that it wasn't like a huge marathon. There weren't a lot of races in it. There was about 150 on the day. Normally, if you're looking at like second place, you were definitely looking at a faster time than 3:55, but not something to be frowned upon. So I'm hugely grateful that I managed to get that time, because it helped me to get into a faster corral going into Disney, and that was the main target for why I wanted to do this marathon in May. So the first tip that I'm going to provide for you is actually thinking about your goal and your mindset on how you're going to achieve that goal. When you're talking about a marathon time that you want to get, you have to have something in mind that is achievable, but something that you want to really push for. So in this case, with this marathon, I still made sure that I picked a time that I could do. So I was like, okay, I'm going to challenge myself and try and get a sub 4-hour marathon, but I'm going to do it right. So the main thing, and this is tip number one, is when you find that plan that you want to do, you stick to that plan. There is a reason why marathon training takes 3 to 5 months, and that's because it is such a physically demanding race. It's one of the most demanding races that is out there to put your body through, and in order to do so, you need to make sure that you're building up your body properly by following a structured plan. Now, I have said this before, but you do want to find a plan that suits you, but you need to make sure that it is one that is a good plan. There are loads of plans out there. There's lots of free content. I will provide Pete Wilcox's plan in the description box below. That's the plan that I went with, and it does have a good variation of types of runs, but bear in mind, even though it was a good free plan, there aren't that many great free plans out there for marathon running. If you sign up for a marathon, sometimes they will give you a plan linked to the marathon itself. The plan that I followed had 5 workouts a week, and that's something, again, you need to make sure you're addressing when you are picking your plan for your marathon. Is it something that you can fit into your lifestyle? 5 workouts a week is not an easy stretch. It's something that's going to take up a lot of your time, a lot of your energy. So once you've got your plan and you've got those days of the week that you know you're going to be able to do it, you need to pick an environment that you can actually train in. And again, this is really linked to where you live, the time of year that it is, etc. So when I picked the plan and I was training for May, unfortunately in the middle of winter, I don't like running outside, so I did a lot of treadmill based running, which is fine, but when you're doing treadmill based running, there is a couple of negatives. One, you're not following the terrain of going outside, so if you've got a particularly hilly course, that might be something that is difficult to mimic on a treadmill. Also, you'll find that when you're running on a treadmill, you're actually having to run faster in order to mimic an outdoor race time, because there's less resistance from the elements as such, so the treadmill does make it harder for you to work. So on a positive, if you're training on a treadmill for ages and then you start going running outside, you'll find that it is a breeze, or it's much easier to actually run outside than it is on a treadmill. And that's another factor that you need to marry into when you're training for your marathon, is think about the climate that you're going to be in. So if you're training all through the winter and you're going to be running in 20-degree heat, if you're running in that freezing cold, knowing that you're going to run in a hot climate, that's a huge transition for your body to make. So actually doing indoor running when you are in a cold climate, knowing you're going to run in a warm climate, actually does have its benefits, because your body adjusts and acclimatizes to running in the right conditions. So you pick your plan, you've got the right environment in order to train. Next is the main thing, and that's making sure you have the right type of runs. So the first run that you're going to need in your plan is a long run. It's not the most fun one. No one wants to do consistent consistent long runs, especially when you know you've got to do the 26 miles. But if you're going to do 26.2 miles and you've never done a long run, you are not being specific in your training. We know the principle of specificity. I managed to say that word. With that principle in mind, you're doing training that mimics the goal that you're trying to reach. So you can't do a marathon and then just do lots of 3-mile runs, because you're not going to be able to, because your body's not going to learn how to train. Your body's not going to develop the right capillary density. It's not going to increase the heart in size. You're not going to increase your heart volume enough. You're not going to be able to respond to humidity issues. You're not going to be dealing with factors of dehydration because you're not running for long enough. So a long run is unfortunately the necessary run and probably the biggest run of your week. Normally leave the long run to a Saturday or a Sunday. I always leave it to the weekend one because you need to dedicate the time to it. You don't want to be rushing back for work, rushing to take the children to school, etc. It needs to be a time where you know you can devote that time solely to your run. Normally with the long runs, they peak at about 22 miles. Now, depending on the level that you're trying to aim for, that will mimic how many times you're going to do a long run. But your long runs you'll find at the start maybe about 13-14 miles, and they will go up in increments all the way until sort of your 20. You won't do that completely until the end because obviously there's a taper period, but you need to make sure that you've got that peak distance of about 20 to 22 miles in your long run, or that build up towards it. Every 3 to 4 weeks your plan needs to show some regression in terms of the number of miles though, and this is a really key thing. You shouldn't just keep building up week on week, so you shouldn't have 15, 16, 17, 18 miles for example as a real weird estimation. You should find that it will go 15, 17, 18 back down to 14. The reason why you're going to drop it down is because you're actually going to then increase your speed and see if you can keep more of a marathon-based pace on that shorter distance, because you've already developed that long run over the longer period of time at a more comfortable pace. Your long run should be easy. You should be able to say a few sentences comfortably whilst you're running. Some long runs will have that marathon pace embedded into it. So you'll have like a warm-up period, marathon pace, cool down, or it'll have a slower pace and then marathon pace for the last few miles. Again, this is a great way to train because it switches your mind onto how you're going to do it with long periods of doing marathon pace, and see if you can actually even keep up with it at that point. The second type of run that you want to include is your tempo run. There are loads of different ways to describe this. You've got tempo runs, interval runs, lactate threshold runs, but you actually find that you go through a period where you push your time, you push your speed to a set limit, and then you have recovery periods. Now with marathons, it's really important that the amount that you are doing your interval period for is not like a sprint. So you're not doing like 100 meters unless you're doing strides. So when you're doing tempo runs, it's kind of like a 10k pace, so what you would achieve for your 10k, and then you want to mimic that speed for a set given distance. It's not recommended that you do less than 800 meters. The main reason for that is because you are doing a long run, so you'll need to maintain a speed for a longer period of time, but it is good to have a couple of tempo runs a week. I would suggest having 2 and normally having them separated. Don't have them back to back. So next in our training plan, you'll have another easy run. Now easy runs are really beneficial. They're probably the things that are going to actually help you the most along with your long runs, because your easy run helps you to build up that cardiovascular endurance and enables your body to advance your aerobic system. So your easy runs will be anywhere from 6 to 11, maybe even pushing 13 to 15 miles extra that's not considered a long run. Now this may seem like a lot because you're thinking, whoa, I'm already doing like a 20 mile and I've got 15 or 11 earlier in the week, but this is where you've got to think about what you can dedicate your time to. You need to have easy runs, one, because you're running so much, your body needs some form of recovery, otherwise you're going to deal with things like overtraining. It's more likely that you might have an injury. You may feel like your motivation drops. So having those easy runs kind of gives you that time to relax, unwind, but know that you're still training for that end goal. And then the last run of the week is normally a short one prior to your long run. It's either fartlek, which is speed play, or it might be hill training. Now that could sound like it's counterproductive because you're doing something really hard and then trying to do a long race the next day. Actually, it's really beneficial because you're not doing the full 26 miles. You need to have your body showing some form of fatigue or mimicking the effect of doing the 26 miles. So training 5 miles the day before and really exhausting your system because you're doing hill circuits, which are not that much fun, but you have to do them, or doing some form of speed play. You're actually tapping into different systems. You're pushing your body that little bit more, so you are a little bit fatigued the next day for your actual long run. And those types of training are the things that you need to look for in your plan. So a long run, easy run, tempo run, hill circuit, fartlek. If they're not in your training plan for running, it's not a good plan for you. So don't go to it. Try something else, pay for a running coach, go to a running club, or get a plan that is paid and you know it's from a certified run coach. So go for actual running based organisations. Don't just pick anything random. Don't click on the first advert that you see from Instagram. Look into the right people. So alongside my marathon training that I was doing, and I was doing all these runs during the weeks that I was leading up to the marathon, I also managed to fit in my strength training. Part of the reason why I had to drop the number of workouts that I was releasing in terms of my YouTube channel, but when you're training for a marathon and you're doing strength training, you don't want to do too many. If you do too many strength based training sessions, you're actually going to tip the scale on how much your body can improve based on its cardiovascular system and your endurance based system, because you're still trying to build muscular strength. So I was trying to do 2 to 3 strength based training workouts a week. One of them was always my running leg workout, and I will provide that in the link above. It really gave me a boost of confidence, and I did see improvements in my strength, my balance and my flexibility by using the workout that I created. And then I provided, which I'll provide again up here, an ab-based workout. Your core strength is super important when you are training for a marathon. You can incorporate arms if you want to, because that can help open up the chest, but the main two are your legs and your core. And as well as doing all that, you need to include some form of flexibility training or doing your stretches before and post run. With this marathon in mind, I actually looked into the technology that I was going to be using and added forms of assistance that I could use effectively. So when I was training for my marathon back in January, I used my Fitbit, but it wasn't until I was actually training and following a plan properly that I actually realised that the Fitbit was completely off the charts. So when you're picking the technology that you're using, remember it's just a tool to assist you. It's not your complete god of training. So just bear that in mind, that when you are training, which is something that I did, I was actually just using the time instead of going, okay, well I've got to hit this mileage on my Fitbit in order to reach where I've got to get, because I actually found that I was running extra than what I needed to in the given time. I also started training with gels, and I looked into the best sort of gels for me, and there's a lot of science backed in the gels, but there's also a lot that you need to research into it yourself. You need to know if you're taking something with water, whether you want something that's food based, and how your body responds to it. And when you're doing your long runs, I always recommend that you train with gels, because remember, you're trying to mimic, you don't want your first day with gels to be on your marathon day, because you've already got a huge bag of nerves in that body. If you overload too many gels, it can lead to digestive issues and problems that you don't want to deal with. I was taking 1 to 2 gels with me on my run, and I took a water bottle as well. Now that's an issue that can happen during your training. No one wants to carry a water bottle with them when they're running, so there is a couple of things that you can do. One, you can have like a belt, one of those jackets, which I don't personally like using, just because I don't want added weight when I'm running. Again, I don't really like the restrictive nature of having a belt, so I do just hold my water bottle, but try a different range of water bottles, see if there's one with the handle works better than just a normal one. And also you've got to remember that when you're drinking using the bottle, you've got the spout, and it's actually easier to drink. When you run on race day, you're drinking from a cup, so the likelihood of you spilling it everywhere is going to go up. So certainly do a number of runs. Maybe you do a lap around your house, you do like a 2-mile circuit, and there's a water station with drinks that are in cups, so you learn how to actually drink from a cup. Sounds really silly, sounds like you're trying to be a toddler at this point, but you are trying to drink and then try and run afterwards. And always make sure that if you have a gel, that you do drink with it, because otherwise that again isn't going to help you. Actually drinking sends it around a lot quicker to the body, to the parts that it needs, but you don't want it just sitting on you, and it's very sweet, so it can have a funny taste. So make sure that you do drink, and it does tell you on the packet to drink with the gel, so listen to what the packet tells you. And I will be in the next few weeks doing a bit of speed work for about 6 weeks to try and improve my pacing, and then after that it's the 18-week slog in the run-up to Disney 2023. If you have any questions about training for a marathon, or if you'd like to know anything more about how I train at the moment, or things that I actually find beneficial, please make sure that you do put them in the comment section below. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up, and if you haven't already, please do subscribe to this channel. But other than that, for me, it's bye for now.